it's Raquel from Recovery to Wellness, and I'm back with a new video that is on my mind and something that I want to make a video about and film. I'm at the library again. This is my second time this week actually at the library. Yes, today's Tuesday, so yesterday I went to the library. That was good. I filmed a couple videos. I'm back at the library to film a couple videos. We're just repeating the same thing. But with different things, so different kinds of things. At least this video is in response to a video that I filmed yesterday that is about something that I forgot can happen to me still in my recovery that is interesting. I don't know what the word is for it, but I'll get into more of that in a minute. It's currently May 10th, 2022, and we're going to talk in this video, we're going to talk about mental health conditions, particularly recovery from those conditions, OCD, BPD, depression, the whole gambit, as well as touching upon past suicidal ideation. No methods or anything to that effect, but this is May. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, as well as Borderline Personality Disorder Awareness Month. I mentioned that in one of the videos, the recovery check-in, that I have already edited it, I just have to upload it, so I just have to do that, and I might try to do that. Actually, I probably shouldn't do it while I'm at the library because it's going to take forever, so I'll just do it when I get home, and I'll post that today because that's what I want to get done today for my channel and everything. But anywho, so there's something, so if you don't know, I've been living with OCD on self-harm and suicide obsessions, which essentially don't mean genuine intent. It's more of like having an intrusive thought and not being able to sort of control my thoughts, and then also like inflating the importance of those thoughts. Like, we all have thoughts sometimes of like, I want to punch that person in the face, like random things. Our brains just create random things. You can think about, three-eyed monsters, or that like skittle up the road, or up the wall and like around the roads. And the brain is an imagination is so far and like in depth and everything. So anything really, OCD in particular, as long as it bothers the individual, like it's something that they're afraid of kind of thing, or something that distresses them, the OCD will find like, not even just like whatever that person is afraid of, that's what the OCD will target as in. So for me, it was like mortality. I always get those two confused. Mortality. So like mortality was like, I'm afraid of death and stuff. So sort of like I'd have an intrusive thought of hurting myself that I did not want to act on, and that it wasn't mood congruent, like I wasn't already depressed or whatever. It definitely could make me suicidal, because having intrusive thoughts of hurting myself in very specific ways was like overwhelming and distressing and not a good experience. So it could go in, like, an intrusive thought could go into, genuine ideation. That's how you distinguish the two, because it can be the person who, so there's like 4 cases. I never remember what the 4th one is, but there's one case where it's like a person with only OCD, only having intrusive thoughts on self-harm and suicide. And then it could be homicide, it could be religion, it could be anything, honestly. The classic OCD is like, the hand washing, compulsions, okay, so obsessions are like the thoughts and stuff. Compulsions are the actions you do to combat the thoughts, to like find temporary relief from that anxiety or from that distress, because it isn't always just anxiety, it can also be any form of distress. So the compulsion is something that the person will do to feel relief. It's momentary relief. It's sort of relief, but with a contingency, because eventually the thought will come back, and then the whole process will begin again, and then you're just caught in that loop, and that's OCD in a sense. So, with compulsions and stuff, like, there's so many different compulsions, there's so many different obsessions. Obsessions can be on anything. There's religious ones, there's ones for like hand washing, contamination, like you being contaminated, you contaminating other people, harm OCD, like in the sense of like the self-inflicting ones, or sexually assaulting the child, or like there's all these things. as long as it makes that person afraid and in distress, that is what the OCD will target, in a sense. So I forgot what my point was, but I get on a roll. But OCD is very broad. OCD is very broad, and it's mood incongruent. So it's like, so okay, yeah. So it's so we can have the instance where it's only OCD. Then there's a second instance where someone maybe is dealing with only depression, right? And they're having genuine thoughts of suicidal ideation and such. That's, another category. Then there's a category, the main because again, there's 4, but I never remember what the 4th one is. The 3rd one is, though, that you have someone who can have both intrusive thoughts of self-harm and suicide, because again, suicide obsessions are not the same thing as suicidal thoughts. So you can have someone living with, the last case that I can remember is someone living with OCD on self-harm and suicide obsessions, so not genuine intent, and also having a comorbid condition, a comorbid diagnosis, like borderline or depression or whatever, that does entail genuine intent. So I fell into the lucky category of having both of them. Way back in my recovery, back in 2015, 2016, 2017 especially, 2018. I encompass my whole journey about all those things. What's relevant for now is that, I don't know, I remember when I was at Passages, which was a long-term day program that I attended for a couple of years, that I went to like 3 days a week kind of thing. But like there was a word that somebody said, there's a word for glorifying death. And like, for me, at least, my brain has always, since 2015, let's say, my brain has always glorified suicide and self-harm. So like, that is still something I combat even to this day. Like, it's not like I don't go to the extent that I act on any of those thoughts, but it definitely is something, a theme that is still present. And like, to me, glorifying it is making it be this, my brain just, and I don't know what it is, because I blamed OCD for a long time, but I don't think it's OCD. I don't know what it is. But there's a word for glorifying it, because there's something, like, it's just, it makes it in, my brain just makes it into this like wonderful, magical, like sparkly, like, so like, ooh, beautiful, wonderful thing that will solve all answers to all problems, and that is death in a sense. And one of my therapists at the DBT intensive I was doing back in like 2018, 2019, she described it really, really well for me, because she was saying death is the ultimate avoidance. And if you don't know, my longest standing behavioral pattern is avoidance. So just even hearing it phrased in that way, like death is the ultimate avoidance, of course, that would be something that I would eventually, almost long for in a way, or yearn for in some avenue of some distress and struggle. So that was always something that really stuck out to me, because I was like, I never thought of it like that, and that's very true. Also, I think for me, for my experiences, suicide is kind of like, it's not as bad anymore, but like I don't read a lot about it. I don't like go looking for content regarding suicidality. In fact, I probably actually avoid it now. But like, it's the same, because I had a lot of like, I guess, self frustrations of like, why does my brain think of it this way? Why is it? Because I know it's not. Like, I know it's not, and I especially know that because of a relapse I had in 2017 where I acted, my brain was like, oh yeah, wonderful, awesome thing, and then I did it, and then I acted on it, and then it wasn't this wonderful, awesome thing, and then that was like the real like turning point, one of the turning points for me, because it was like, hey, actually my brain is telling me this was gonna solve all my problems, and when I did it, I didn't feel fantastic and wonderful and happy. I felt worse, and the thoughts always come back, like for me, like I was able to conceptualize within my recovery that like, even if I acted on a thought, like acted on a suicidal thought or something, like if I was lucky enough to survive or didn't have a moderate or severe attempt, again, I don't consider myself a suicide attempt survivor because my attempts were never that bad. They were never like severe or anything. But like, I was going somewhere, it'll come back. But like, I don't consider myself a suicide attempt survivor, and like, I just, where was I going with that? It's loud in here. But yeah, I don't consider myself a survivor in that case, because they were never that severe. But I guess I knew that like, even if I did survive an attempt or something, or like I woke up in a hospital bed, I knew that the thoughts would always come back in a sense, and like what I was doing, I think in a way, to act on the thought in some respects was like a compulsion in a sense. So because again, like that temporary relief would be gained from like scratching or planning, but like at the same time not completely. And like I guess I kind of knew that like I could make a suicide plan, I could do all the action steps for it, fully act on it, and then I'd wind up in the hospital, and then I would still have more thoughts about it. Like it would never be enough in a sense. Like my brain would never be satisfied until I was dead. So yeah, so yeah. What was I trying to say with all of this? I'm just trying to say that there's a word for glorifying it. I know that it's glorification, and I know that it's not this wonderful, amazing thing, because there's so many reasons as to why it's not. And I don't remember what the word is, but I remember from my day program that somebody had told me that there was a word for that. The other thing, the self-frustration thing that I was trying to talk about, is also because one of my therapists at the day program had said, for me, the topic of like suicide and self-harm is a lot like people who are fascinated by like serial killers and homicide. Like, why are so many people fascinated by that? Like watching true crime or watching documentaries or like things like that. It's the same thing, but just with a slightly different topic. So that was also a perspective that I never had considered before, so that was interesting. And also, on the topic of flooding myself, since 2018, I have built in safeguard behaviors. So I have boundaries now with myself that I don't go back into old memories or old things. I mean, there are instances where I do want to challenge that, but I don't flood myself like I used to. Like, flooding would be like going in OCD, the ERP, exposure and response prevention, is the treatment for OCD. And it's gradual baby steps at a time with a hierarchy of the most intense. And you start at the bottom, but sometimes I would just flood, and I would just go for like the number one, the top of the pyramid, and that never worked out well. So the whole thing I was trying to say about that is, when I tell my story and I have to talk about the OCD, it is a compulsion, so I have to be careful. And in being careful, it's also almost like an added compulsion in a sense. Like, I have to be, wary of my thoughts and such and behaviors and things like that. Like as if it has a higher importance than another thought in a sense, which may be disproportionate. When I don't ruminate like I used to. And like, I remember when I was in the hospital for my longest stay, which was 5 weeks in 2017, like the end of like September 2017. Before that, I would, pace around my room. My headphones were in. I was listening to my iPod. I was like, singing the songs, but I was dancing, and then I was really just like ruminating and really just deep in the throes of the disorders and just really ill and like rehashing things and like plotting things and like all that like not good stuff. When I was in the hospital for 5 weeks, that eliminated that behavior. So that was really the beginning of when I stopped doing as much rumination or rumination in the same way. Like sometimes I still ruminated, I imagine, but like it was different because it wasn't within the same sort of pattern. It's also why I think I can't be mindful when I'm singing to songs, because even when I sing to songs, my brain is somewhere else. Like there's not a full present moment when I'm like listening to a song in a sense. And I think part of it too may be because I'll do photography now with like music in the background, or like when I do my writing, I do music in the background. So it might be a combination of that as well. But because I don't ruminate as much as I used to, when I do, it's like I get a high off of it. I'm sure there's a word for it. Do I know what that word is? No. If you know what that word is, let me know in the comments. But I think I do. I think I get like a high. And it's like, I don't know if it's like a release of endorphins or what it is. It's not like a happiness. It's not like, yay, trauma. Like, it's not that. But like, I don't know. When I tell my story, OCD for me means like, I remember when I would write articles in the newspaper, like, I remember therapists telling me and asking me, like, is that a compulsion? Like, is writing about your recovery actually doing more harm than good? And also I found out that writing things about it, or like drawing pictures regarding suicidal ideation, things like that, was a compulsion. So, that was always a question within my recovery. What is it more harm than good? And also with the whole self-boundaries, I had to learn that no, we're not going to sit for hours at a time just, ruminating or thinking about death and mortality and all of these dark things. And so that's been a huge thing that I've done. And of course now I'm still at a point in my recovery where I do want to sort of open up and talk more about those things. It's just I have to be more careful how I do it, and I'm more cognizant of how I do it, and also entail those healthier, better coping strategies to sort of have a barrier or a buff between the experiences of it. So like, for me, the OCD for me was always about let's focus on it. Let's like we'll go from like this sort of view to all the way down to this one thing, and then it was all that. Like my OCD specialized therapist had said it was like I was a suicidal blob just floating in the air. Like it was just completely consuming me. So I know that the compulsion I would have, even to this day, is when I start to talk about my story, particularly how bad it got and how dark it was. And even when people tell me, this is why I have a boundary in my descriptions, and and I have a couple other videos I've done about boundaries before, but people who knew me before 2018, I have a boundary that says, if you knew me before 2018, don't tell me like, oh, you're doing so much better, Raquel. Like, I remember when you were so awful, it was really bad, you were really struggling. Because phrasing it in that way for me makes me, like, I know I'm supposed to be like, oh yes, I've grown so much, I'm different in this way, and that way. But for me, it doesn't make me feel that way. It makes me feel like, oh no, those times were really great, we should go back to that. Like, it just sort of does that to me. So like, that's why I have that kind of boundary and everything. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, like, I think when it's always come to sharing my story with Nami and stuff, the darker section, of what happened is always really hard for me, because it would be so easy to just go back into ruminating, and only thinking about that, and only talking about that, and only doing, so I'm aware of that, and I guess maybe it's that, like, reigniting of those neural pathways. Maybe it is endorphins that get released, but it's not like true happiness. It's not like if I exercised and got happy. I don't think, but I don't really exercise that much, so I don't know. But it's more of like a dangerous endorphin release in a sense, or like a dangerous, like, you know, high alert, if not dangerous, just a high alert of like a high in a sense. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what the word for that is, like, because I filmed like a video yesterday, and it happens. It is time sensitive. It's like a crisis in that sense. It's time sensitive. So like once I get busy and I do other things, even when I ruminate, if I, you know, because I ruminate, you know, I'm a human and sometimes I ruminate. I know that it will have, like, it's time sensitive. Once a few other things happen, another hour goes by or whatever, and I start doing something else, then my mind will get lost into that, you know, and it might still linger a little bit depending on what the severity of the situation I'm ruminating about was, but ultimately it goes away. So even like the release, the high that I get from like talking about all the bad stuff, like, I don't know, my mind just distorts things, and then I misremember things, or, you know, inflate things, or whatever it might be, catastrophize. But yeah, I get this like high off of it, and it's not like a pleasant, like, yeah, we should go back and do, I mean, kind of. The OCD would want me to like go back. Well, I call it OCD, but I don't know if it's OCD. But what I blame as OCD is wanting to go back. Let's keep doing it. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And that's the part of me that I have to really fight off a lot. And so I don't really do it as much. Like, there are things in my content, you know, in my videos, definitely in fanfiction, I touch on suicide a lot, but like, I also like have more of a perspective of like recovery and like betterment from that. So that's the way I related to it changed in time, which is amazing. Thank you, DBT. I don't know what I filmed a video yesterday where I talked about like suicide prevention and suicide prevention awareness, and like I got that high off of it, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And like, I don't know, it's just, and I'm getting it, I think I'm getting it from this video too, which is why I had to film something completely different. Like the sort of next self-care will be I'll just do something completely different. Maybe I'll do a song review. It's like 7 now, so I'll do like a song review or something. But like, yeah, I hope this makes sense. I hope it makes sense. I hope that someone out there can relate. Is it, I don't know, is it borderline? Is it OCD? Is it depression? Is it just my brain? Like, does it need a definition? Because I know the quest of trying to figure out, is it OCD or is it something else, is OCD. So, like, I don't know. But, I mean, I just always blame OCD. But then when I hear, like, I talk, and I wanted to do a video before on OCD support groups and stuff, because this was one of the support groups I've ever gone to. But the more I kept hearing people talk about OCD in support groups, it was like, oh, that's OCD? Because that's not been my experiences with it, and I've been saying it's OCD this whole time. So, I don't know. But I don't know what it is. But there is that high, and it's like an excitement, I guess. It's like being excited, but for all the wrong reasons, and like not healthy reasons, and not safe reasons. Like, safe with the thoughts, but if I continue to go on it, like, I know it would lead. I know from experience that it would lead to dark places. So it's more, okay, maybe in a video I film and I do that, or I film the video when I'm not working or whatever, or you know, sort of rearrange it, you know, make sure I do a different video afterward, or, you know, safeguard it somehow. But yeah, there must be a word for it. I wonder if it is releasing endorphins or what it is. But that's all I got. So this is that video. This is a video, and I made it, and it happened, so we're gonna, you know, roll with it. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening to my rambles, and I went into a whole spiel, And let me know if you know the word for it or what diagnosis it sounds like to you. And we'll go from there. Yeah. So, as always, stay safe, take care, be well. I got an ad. Much love and light to you, and I'll see you very soon. And thanks for watching. And let me know what you could relate to in this video and what you could not relate to. Oh, I should do that fancy thing where I
can see a lighthouse through the smoke. Everything is lost, I know.